It definitely is beginning with the end in mind for us. And the end goal at the time was cash every month. And that is exactly what we did. We said, okay, and I talk about that in the book as well. What is your end goal? Is your end goal just to increase your net worth? Is your end goal to actually get out of your W-2 job? Is your end goal just to get you or your husband, one of you at home? Like, what is your end goal? And based on that goal, you can definitely work backwards into the best investment for you. And you can start. I mean, right? That's
right. Yeah.
The activation energy. You know, I am a high school science teacher by trade. So that activation energy, just to get the ball rolling, get started, is so great for so many people. And I just can't encourage people enough to just do it. And if you don't know how, there are people that will help you. They are everywhere.
Welcome to STR Unlocked, a podcast for driven vacation rental investors looking to gain the freedom that comes with an abundance of time and money.
I'm April.
And I'm Nathan.
Our life is busy with 3 small children, full-time jobs, and not nearly enough coffee. And we're unlocking success with short-term rental investing every single day. Join us in our journey as we learn and grow together.
If we can do it, so can you. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of STR Unlocked. If you are here, you're probably an investor who is looking to invest in real estate and more specifically short-term rentals, because that is something that you're passionate about and you want to replace probably your job and your current income in real estate with all the benefits that come along with it. I'm here today with my beautiful wife, April. How you doing?
Doing great. How are you?
I'm doing good. And I am really, really excited because today we've got a special guest, Kim and Travis. Guys, how you doing?
Doing well. Thanks for having us.
Doing good. Yeah. I am really excited to bring you here. And before we get started, it was like a really funny story for the 4 of us, because I met you guys at one of our local UCREA meetings, which is our local real estate investor meetup thing. And you guys were sitting across the table from us, and I didn't realize it, but we had already reached out to you to come on the podcast. I just didn't realize who you were, right?
How did we?
yeah. And I think there's been a few more interactions just in passing. Yes. So it's really great to meet you guys and to learn more about your story.
Yes.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah. So you've got a book coming out.
Yes.
So I want you to just really quickly give us a synopsis of that book. And then I want to deep dive into y'all's story because it's really interesting. And I think it mirrors most everybody who's going to be listening to this and watching this. So tell us a little bit about your book and why'd you write it?
Okay, my book is called Don't Do Normal, and it's just our story of living our best life through real estate investing. We were not real estate investors. I'll give you a quick story. So I grew up, my father passed away when I was small, when I was 8 years old, and my mom was a school teacher. Everyone in my world was either a teacher or a nurse, and you worked for 30 years plus, and then you retired and you lived off your retirement. But I very quickly noticed that no one was retiring around me at all, and didn't look like they were going to retire anytime soon. So I already thought there might be a problem with this plan. And I do have a bit of a rebellious streak, but I decided, okay, I'm not going to go against this. I'm going to go to college. I'm going to become a school teacher. I'm going to go to work. And so we did that. And then I had children, and working and having children was just really not working for us. And my husband is a licensed builder, licensed plumber. So we started a plumbing company and we grew it, and Travis did a great job, and we were making a comfortable income. I was able to stay at home, homeschool our children, and I worked at the office on my own schedule. So completely different from what I grew up with. But we quickly figured out that it was a lot of stress. It was a lot of work, a lot of stress. And while I was at home, we never saw Travis. So, and plus Travis was ready to make an exit plan. And so, one day I was watching a really silly reality show, and one of the people mentioned mailbox money, and I literally Googled what is mailbox money, and it came up that it was money that you receive based on a passive investment like real estate. And I went to Travis and I said, honey, I think I have our exit strategy, right? I think we can go invest in real estate and get some passive income, even though passive income still requires work. At least it's work on your own terms. And that's where we started investing in real estate. And the book is our story on how we did that. So I just walk you through exactly where we started, how we did it, step by step, what our fears, what our thoughts, what our problems were, how we overcame them, and kind of our story in a nutshell of becoming real estate investors.
That is so cool. Well, first off, congratulations, right? Like to get where you guys are now is overcoming challenges that most people don't, right? And I think that's why sharing your story and writing the book is such a powerful thing, because if people realize it can be done, right? It can be done. And then you lay out in the book somewhat of how you did it. So you kind of have a little bit of a plan that you can follow. That's a very powerful thing. So congratulations. And I'm curious, when she brought you the idea, Travis, and she was like, hey, let's get some of that mailbox money. let's invest in real estate. Like, what was that like for you? Like, because
well, it was good because I knew that I could do the work that needed to be done on the properties if something came up.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have to, because that was my concern, was that if I have to pay contractors and do all this, are you going to lose your money that you're making paying people to fix things? So
100%.
I knew that I could do that, and that was what I bought in with. I was like, I can fix the problem, so we'll have a little more income from
That's awesome.
Yep.
Okay, so take us through, and you don't have to share your whole book here on the podcast or anything, but take us through the beginning so we know what inspired the idea. We know why you guys needed the change. But what I really want to hone in on, and we had talked about this a little bit before we started, is this really hard time that I think most every couple goes through, or most every family goes through when they're looking to make the transition, which is, how are we going to make this work financially, right? Like, we need the income that I'm working on right now, or that I'm bringing in right now. We need the plumbing business in order to have a sustainable living, so that my kids have a great roof over their head, and that we can feed them, and that we can live.
Right.
But I need to leave the responsibility that I have at my plumbing company, because I need to go work at this other thing.
I need to dedicate the time.
It takes time, right? It takes time.
time.
So how did you guys navigate that? That must have been tough, or was it tough for you guys?
Well, I think that Travis and I make a great team. So we just kind of divided and conquered. So we set up parameters for what we were looking for, and that helped us quite a bit. So we knew we wanted it within 30 minutes of our home. We didn't want Travis to have to drive very far to do any repairs. We knew we wanted a certain cash-on-cash return. We knew we wanted a certain amount of income per door. We knew that we wanted $300,000 or less, so that the amount of money that we were putting down was doable for us. So we had a list of parameters, and that's been a big help in our business, both in our long-term investing that we started in 2015, and then our short-term business, which we started in 2019, 2020, setting up parameters. So that helped me go out and hunt. I'm the hunter. He comes in for the kill. And I go out and find the deal, and then bring him in for the final, okay. So that's how we did it. So I just went out, I was looking for the deals. I knew the numbers. I had an accountant help us with all of the number crunching, so that I was more confident that what I was doing was actually going to work. And I found them, and then we would close on them and work as a team to get them going.
And at this point, you had already retired from teaching, or you had left teaching?
Yes.
Yeah.
We have, I'm a complete, so people listening to the podcast, we are completely normal people. We have 6 children.
Right.
We're very busy, with our families
right.
and things like that. So I had already stopped teaching because I had 6 children, and I homeschooled, and I was at home. I still worked at the plumbing company, but I was able to set my own hours and when I could work around the children's schedules. So I was not teaching at that time.
And when you guys were making the transition, you still had the plumbing business, right?
Yes, I downsized it to just me.
Got it.
So I would run the calls from the customer base that I'd already have, and I would take care of properties
Got
on the
it.
side.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Right.
So at first, you guys basically were funneling the profit that you were making from the business, right? And that was basically what you guys were using to fuel the first investment that you made.
Right.
Gotcha. And tell us what the first investment was.
The first investment was a 20-unit mobile home park.
Got it.
And our plan was to use the money that we would make from the mobile home park, plus the money that he was running calls, using that money and from his plumbing calls, and then buy our next property, and then just continue snowballing that until we were at 50 doors. And we knew that by the time, if we stay within our parameters and bought based on what we had decided would work for us, then at 50 doors we were good.
That's awesome.
He wouldn't have to run plumbing calls anymore.
So before I dig into why a mobile home park and why you made that your first investment, what does your portfolio look like today? What do you have?
We have 2 mobile home parks. We have over 50 doors at this point. We have about 35 trailers.
Gotcha.
And then we have homes.
Gotcha. Cool. And for the homes, are you doing any long-term rentals or is it all short-term?
Yes, we have long-term rentals.
Okay,
for
gotcha.
our homes, and then we have we have 3 short-term rentals, 2 mid-term rentals, and we just purchased 2 more short-term rentals.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so we're going to get to the short-term rentals.
Yeah,
we're going
sure.
to talk about that. But I think what's interesting here, tell us why mobile home park. Why did you start there? Why didn't you just go straight into purchasing a single family house and start with short-term rentals? Or was short-term rentals the goal from the beginning, or were you just like, hey, we're just trying to get some mailbox money?
We just needed to get out of the plumbing business.
Gotcha.
And when Tracy, our accountant, and I sat down to crunch the numbers, mobile home parks return on investment and the amount of cash we could bring in beat anything else I was looking at the time. I don't know if that's the same now. Mobile home parks have appreciated quite a bit since 2015.
Everything has.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, so I'm not sure that and we're no longer looking for mobile home parks.
Right.
We kind of switched directions, but at the time that was the biggest bang for our buck, and we could make the most money with one purchase.
Yeah. This is actually something that we talk about a lot about right now between us and our next steps that we're going to make with investing. But I think all too often somebody will see an influencer on the internet and go, well, that's what I've got to do. And then they'll say, well, I don't have that much money. Well, I guess I can't do this. And I think that stops people in their tracks, right? And they're like, hey, I want to replace my income. I want to leave the plumbing business that I have, right? I want to be able to spend more time with my family, spend more time with my kids, and spend more time at home. But I don't see a clear pathway here because I don't have the money to do what that influencer is telling me to do. And that influencer may be saying, well, you need to go buy a single family home and it needs to be in this location. And this is what I did. So this is what you must do too. And then you're going to be able to cash flow tons and tons of money and you can leave your 9 to 5. But what you guys did was you stepped back and you said, okay, so in real estate, there are many different types of real estate that I could get into. What's going to give me the most bang for my buck? How can I get in? And then you formed a strategy after that starting point that has allowed you to get to where you are today, right? And I think I just think that's not common. That's relatively uncommon, right? Because people say, oh, well, I must go straight into multifamily. Or they say, well, I've got to build out 100 doors of long-term rentals, right? And that's, for a lot of people, cash flowing $200 on a long-term rental, that's going to take them 15,
Forever.
20 years, right? It's going to take forever. Whereas you guys step back and you say, we need cash flow. What's the asset that we can invest in that's going to get us the most cash flow for the least amount of money? Right. Let's make that our starting place, right? I don't necessarily have to just follow what I hear on the internet, somebody talking about. Let me step back, let me do the research, and let me figure out what makes the most sense for me and for my situation. And I just think that's really smart, right? That's really cool.
Well, it definitely is beginning with the end in mind for us. And the end goal at the time was cash every month. And that is exactly what we did. We said, okay, and I talk about that in the book as well. What is your end goal? Is your end goal just to increase your net worth? Is your end goal to actually get out of your W-2 job? Is your end goal just to get you or your husband, one of you at home? Like, what is your end goal? And based on that goal, you can definitely work backwards into the best investment for you. And you can start. I mean, right? That's
right. Yeah.
The activation energy. You know, I am a high school science teacher by trade. So that activation energy just to get the ball rolling, get started is so great for so many people. And I just can't encourage people enough to just do it. And if you don't know how, there are people that will help you. They are everywhere. You know, they are at your local real estate investor meetings. There's meetups. Just network with people, go out and meet people. This is an exciting place to be, right? Real estate investing is an exciting place to be. So people are willing to share and they're willing to help, and they want you to be right along with them in the fun.
100%. So for do you dive into numbers in the book?
I do.
Okay. Can you tell us, and again, this is a different time than when you guys first invested. The numbers might not be the same today, but I'm just curious, for when you invested, what were you cash flowing off that mobile home park, the first place that you had?
So, I mean, these numbers are just going to be crazy for
today. Yeah, for today.
But you had to get started somewhere.
But you had to get started somewhere, right?
Yeah.
And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to link for people. You guys made this decision because it made the most sense, right?
Right.
So, like, can you share with us what that first investment looked like?
The first mobile home park that we purchased was 20 units. It was in Anderson, South Carolina. I do go into my book about analyzing your market a little bit better than we did at the beginning.
Cool.
We did not know how to do that. So if we had it to do over again, probably would have purchased a 20-unit mobile home park in Easley or Pickens County or Greenville County rather than Anderson County. But it still all worked out. We paid $222,000 for the mobile home park. We needed $50,000 down in cash in order to close and rehab what we wanted to rehab. Very minimal rehab on this one. It was pretty much ready to go. It was owned by an older woman. She had kept it immaculately clean and well put together, so very minimal on this one. And so our monthly income gross was $10,735, and our net was $8,750 a month.
Cool.
With one purchase. So our cash on cash return was over 100%. So
yeah,
amazing. That's amazing
for the very first purchase.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah,
that's cool. But that's a great illustration of the idea of, this is what I have to work with. Let me go out there and let me see what makes sense. What's the asset I can purchase that's going to get me the most return, right? 100% cash on cash return. It's pretty good. It's not bad.
Yeah,
let me ask
hard to
you,
beat.
Did you guys have any experience with mobile home parks when you made this decision?
No.
At all?
No
You-
real
had
estate
you-
or any
had-
type experience.
Yeah. You see, that's
I knew that mobile home. I was working on them with a plumbing company. I knew they were difficult to work on because of how they're built and designed. But otherwise, no, I had no experience. We had no experience.
no.
yeah.
Yeah. And did you guys have any kind of fear going into this? Like, what were some of the obstacles that you guys had to overcome?
My concern was just the amount of maintenance that you would have to do because they're mobile homes, so
Right.
they're built differently. And my concern was maintenance and how much work you're going to have to put into them. And after time, realized that there wasn't as much that had to be done, and there wasn't as much emergency type stuff that had to be done. So, and plumbing was the most common problem that we had with our property. So I was like, well, this is right up my alley, so I can do this.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. We mentioned earlier during the little break that we just had was that you think fear is probably the biggest thing that prevents people from starting. I know that we feel that often, right? Especially when we're going into a new thing and into a different asset class, and we're like, this is something that we've never done before. How did you guys process that? How did you guys deal with it? I know that you've had prior experience and things like that, so that made it a little bit easier for you. But did you guys just say, hey, like, just talk us to that mindset? How did you guys get over the fear?
I think that the elixir to fear is knowledge. The nail in the fear coffin is experience. So Travis was working, I was behind the scenes doing the research. So I was reading everything I could or watching. At the time, there wasn't as many YouTube or influencers on the internet, but I was watching whatever I could, running the numbers with our accountant that we already knew and had a relationship with. So all of that combined, just as much knowledge as I could put together, information, helped us pull the trigger on our first property. And then you get a little bit of experience, right? Like Travis said, his biggest concern was the maintenance, and you found out maintenance isn't really that big of a deal. I mean, it is there, but it wasn't as pressing as he thought it might be. So, and we were bringing in the money that we thought we were going to bring in. And so then that just a little bit of experience helped settle the fear as well.
You were
But
like, we can do this.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. But I just encourage people, you know, we literally wrote down our fears. Like, what if we lose money? What if we lose all our money? You know, what if we can't get a loan? How are we going to handle that? What if we can't, if it doesn't work out and you still have to work, or all of those things. And we just kind of worked through each of those fears in order to say, okay, at the end of the day, this really isn't that bad.
It's not that big of a deal.
It's not that big of a deal.
Right.
Let's just do it. We've done the best we could preparing for the decision. Like, we did the best we could, right? And felt pretty confident about that, but still no guarantees.
For sure.
Or that there was no guarantees, like
For sure.
my plumbing business could fail, or I
Right.
could have a regular job that I got laid off from. So I felt like there was no guarantees with anything in
No
this
matter how
world.
you go,
Right,
right?
you go.
Right. There's things that are probably inherently less risky.
Sure.
There's things that are probably inherently more risky.
Right.
But there's no guarantees.
No.
Right.
Right.
And I will say, you know, now that we're where we are, and we have accumulated a lot of buy and hold homes or doors, the fear is still there, right? Because it can creep back in. We bought a house in North Carolina, a little A-frame
Cool.
for a short-term rental. It was for sale for $132,000. We made an offer at $119,000. It needed work, but Travis is a licensed builder and has experience, so he was able to do all the work. But we had somebody come over to just see if he could help Travis so that we could get the project finished faster. And right off the bat, you know, he wanted to know how much we paid for it and told us we paid too much for it and it wasn't worth it and it was going to take us forever to fix it. And just a lot of negative things were said by this gentleman. And immediately I'm questioning our decision. Like, oh my word, did we make a bad decision? Like, oh, maybe we shouldn't have bought this. Maybe we did pay too much, you know. But then I just had to say, okay, let's go back to the numbers. And when I went back to the numbers on that one, you know, the cash investment was $56,000. That property is going to gross $41,000 a year as a short-term rental. I know that my expenses stay at 25% approximately of my gross, so I know I'm going to net $30,000. My cash on cash return is 54%. That's a great investment.
100%.
And so-
100%.
No
and
matter how
so-
much you have to do to the property.
Yeah,
Right,
it's a great
right.
investment. And that gentleman just, you know, kind of got me back into the fear bubble, thought bubble, and I had to take myself back out. But so it still happens. It still creeps back in. You question what you're doing. You get a little nervous. But I think that between the numbers and knowledge and experience, just getting started and keep moving forward.
Gotcha. So you had the first mobile home park. You took basically the income that you were making off of that one. You went and did the second one, right?
We did. We were ready to combine the money he was bringing in from the plumbing company with the money we were bringing in from the mobile home park to put into our second
That's
investment.
awesome. That's awesome.
And that's not how it ended up happening because we lost two of our family members within 2 years. And so we ended up kind of fast tracking. And I'm so thankful that we had already put all the work into doing this because we did end up inheriting money that we could invest. And had we not put the work into the process and we knew our parameters, we knew what we were looking for.
Yep.
Yeah.
And if we had not done all that, we would have just been looking at our inheritance like, who wants to go to Australia? You know, like we're ready to,
Right.
you know, just spend it and have a good time. But we invested every penny that we inherited back into real estate. So, you know, and I know that doesn't happen for everyone, but if you have this process in place, right, and then you do unexpectedly come into an amount of money, you know what to do with it,
Right.
You know.
Yeah, it's so funny because I was
This
literally
morning.
listening to an Ed Milet podcast this morning. And I told Nathan, I was like, this is a really good one because they were talking about essentially how you have these couple of big moments in your life, right? Where you have a fantastic opportunity that comes your way. And if you didn't have the experience and if you didn't have the knowledge and the know-how and the support to be able to do something with it, you could miss out on it
It'll pass
entirely.
you by.
And it's such a coincidence that, this conversation is coming up at the same time as that, because that was like the perfect opportunity for you guys, right? Like you do have this money, and to your point, like if you hadn't have already been doing that, if you didn't already look at it from that mindset of, okay, we can take this and we can grow it, rather than we can take this and we can have, we can spend it on a fantastic vacation, which I'm sure you needed at the time.
That would have been a bad thing.
But it's kind of, it's really interesting how things work out that way, right? Like being able to see the bigger picture and to be able to be in the right place at the right time with the right information to be able to do something with it.
Yes.
Yeah, well said. So then you start buying some single family homes. Were you going into it with the idea of short-term rentals, or were you going into it with the idea of long-term rentals? Kind of take me through just really quickly the next little portion of your investing journey.
We continued with multifamily purchases. So whether it was, for example, one was a duplex, a single wide, a home, and a double wide, all and an additional 5 acres, all on one parcel. So we were looking for closings where we would acquire multiple doors at one time. We never bought an apartment building. We looked at them. It just never came around that worked out for us
I was
to
not
do.
on board with apartments.
Yeah. And then, and so we bought another mobile home park. So and then we got to our 50 doors, and we kind of took a time out and raised kids. So, Travis was able to be at basketball games and at soccer practices and help coach teams, and I was homeschooling. So we kind of took a time out from investing for a while. But then in 2019, we decided that we didn't want to live in our farmhouse anymore. We had a farmhouse. It was 6-bedroom, 5-bath farmhouse on 10 acres with a pool and a stocked pond. And we had provided hospice care to my aunt in the home. So we just decided we didn't want to live there anymore. But Travis didn't want to sell it because he thought, we're going to come back here one day. Like, you just need a timeout up from the house, right? But we don't want to sell it because we love it. We love being there. And
it's a beautiful property.
It's beautiful.
It is, yeah.
Thank you.
And so this is kind of a funny story, but you had another guest, Renee, on your podcast. She did a great job. And I was running a nonprofit thrift store at the time, and I met Renee, and I said to her, she said, I do short-term rentals, and I like to find little good deals for my clients, setting up their homes. And I was like, oh, that's really cool. I said, my husband and I have this farmhouse, and we're trying to rent it long-term, but it's kind of expensive, and we're not really having any luck renting it long-term, and we don't want to sell it. Do you think it would be a good short-term rental? And Renee, the smile on her face, she was like, it would be fantastic. And
oh, that's so crazy. I had no idea that you guys had the connection with Renee. Huh.
Yeah. And so I told Travis, I said, I can't believe it either. I don't know who comes to Powdersville, Easley area. I don't know why they would come here or why they would rent our house. But Renee has crunched the numbers, and she says it would be fantastic. So we started that. We put the farmhouse with Renee, and those numbers were so great that Travis and I looked at each other like, okay, this might be our next. And I guess another thing that happened is that we enjoyed it. So we enjoyed the process of setting up the house. We enjoyed reading the guest reviews. We enjoyed making sure the guests were well taken care of. We enjoyed photographing our properties, like every bit about it. Trailer park owning is one thing, right? There's not a lot of, I wouldn't say that's a lot of fun. That is, we're providing a service. We're providing housing to people. But now we're kind of in the hospitality business too, and we really kind of liked it.
Yeah.
So that was an unexpected benefit of putting that house with Renee, and totally just by random, things that happened, did that come along. And then, we looked at Renee and we said, okay, we're used to running our own businesses. So, and we kind of like this. So we're going to start doing more of this. And Renee was gracious enough to say, oh yeah, you guys got this. You don't need me. And that's kind of where we started growing our short-term rental business.
That's very cool. Yeah, that's really cool. And that's something that we share with people all the time, is that and you could take this from multiple ways, but oftentimes investors, they see the cash flow from a short-term rental and they're like, I want to do that. It's like, hold on.
Yeah.
Hold on. So yes, you can do that. It's an amazing, because you get all the benefits of real estate, all the benefits, right? But you also get more cash flow than you do in almost every other asset class if you're doing it right. But you have to enjoy owning a hospitality business, right? Now you can pass it off to a property manager like Renee, and I'm sure that Renee
And she's
does.
fantastic.
I'm sure Renee
Yes.
does an incredible job, right? I'm sure we don't have any local in this market. We don't have any short-term rentals in this market, but I'm sure a property manager, and you can find them like Renee, does an amazing job. But I would say that that's probably a rarity. It's hard to find a short-term property manager that will treat your property the way it needs to be treated and will treat the hospitality business the way it needs to be treated for that thing to really succeed. You know, and again, going back, I think most every investor out there, you know, every investor has got different goals, right? There's some investors who are perfectly happy. They're like, hey, I just want it to make more money than a long-term rental. And they're like, I don't really care how much. I'm really here just for the appreciation and for the wealth building that's going on in the background. I don't really need the cash flow. I don't want to deal with it. So even if it only cash flows $500 a month as opposed to a $250 a month as a long-term rental, I'm cool with that. Let's just get it as a short-term rental. That's fine. But you know, for the people who's really looking to maximize the return, for the people who's really looking for increased cash flow off that short-term rental, you really do have to pay close attention to it. It has to operate like a hospitality business, and you have to enjoy it. You have to enjoy, you know, providing a great experience to people and being able to think of it. Again, it's nice because it's not a full-time job, right?
Yeah.
Like, which I'm sure you talk about in the book.
Yes.
But like, you know, it is still some work, right? It's still some work, and you have to approach it with that mindset. So that makes a ton of sense. So tell us a little bit about the houses in Powdersville. So you've got it's a farm. Tell us just a little bit about that property and kind of talk to us about what do you feel like makes that property successful?
Okay. Before I talk about that, I'd like to piggyback off what you said, because it's one thing just to buy a house and make it a short-term rental, right? And call it an Airbnb. But that is its own category, I think, of short-term rentals. Where we want unique homes in beautiful places. Okay, so we're not just trying to put up whatever we have and rent it. We're trying to provide someone with a beautiful home that's nicely decorated, that feels wonderful to be a part of, and you know, a beautiful place to be a part of. That's kind of where our focus is. So I think when you're talking about the short-term rental business, there's kind of two mindsets, right? There's this mindset where I own 6 houses in a neighborhood and I short-term rent them or mid-term rent them. And then there's the idea of more of a vacation rental, more of an experience, more of a providing a service in that you have this very unique home in this beautiful place that you're providing to people. And that's the part we enjoy. So that's where we focus. And that's probably because we started with the farmhouse. So I'll let you tell them a little
Yeah,
bit.
that's well said.
So about the farmhouse, it's on 9 acres. It's private, a long driveway up to the house. There's a pool. There's a pond. It'll sleep 18, I think.
In beds.
In beds. Open floor plan. So the kitchen, dining room, living rooms are all one giant room. You can't, I mean, there's one neighbor that you can see, but they're probably 200 yards away. So you have your own, basically a retreat is what I look at it, because you can't, it's very private. So you have your own space. You don't feel like there's neighbors on top of you. You don't feel like somebody's looking at you when you go outside, kind of thing. There's pond for fishing. There's a trail around the pond that you can walk. There's a big barn, you know, which is a nice just aesthetic to look at, even though it's not being used for anything.
That's really cool. So
yeah.
you guys leave your primary for a short time, and you're like, let's short-term rent it out, right? Talk to me about what you found. Like, when you put it up as a short-term rental, it was obviously very successful, right? You said Renee did a great job with it, and it was a very successful short-term rental. Can you talk us through those numbers really quick? What did you find?
Let's see. Let me grab my numbers here for you. So for East Church, we paid $425,000 for the house. We put in $100,000. It has a professional kitchen, brand new kitchen, cabinets, all hardwood floors. We did a few other upgrades, air conditioner upgrades, things like this. So we have invested $100,000 into the home, and then so as far as our numbers go, in 2021 we brought in $160,000 as a short-term rental.
That's awesome.
So yeah,
That's awesome. We're about to close out 2022. And what have you found in 2022?
Let me see. We're at the same rate for 2022, right around. Looks like it's more towards 175.
That's cool.
But I don't know if you want to take a moment right now. I mean, the current climate, we are in January of 2023 when we record this. And there's a lot of buzz about the Airbnb bust and things like that on social media. And would you like to take a minute to talk about?
Well, so, yeah, I think we can, because go ahead, share with us your thoughts about the Airbnb bust. Do you think there is one?
I think that Airbnb has made some changes that are affecting bookings, is what I think. We have 5-star reviews. We have beautiful homes. We have great pictures. We have great titles. We offer promotions. We offer discounts. If there's a checklist for everything you should do in order to be booked at a high occupancy rate, at a great nightly rate, we have checked off those boxes. And if I look, so let me find the data. So on the East Church property,
which is the one in Powdersville.
yes,
This is talking about the farmhouse.
Right,
farmhouse.
Powdersville,
Yeah.
South Carolina.
So so I'm down about 41% compared to last year for January.
Interesting.
And I'm doing everything that everyone, all the gurus are saying to do
Right.
to try to pick back up bookings. But somehow I think I've fallen off of the Airbnb algorithm
Yeah.
through no fault of our own. And I don't know. I mean, is it partly the economy, partly the algorithm? I don't know. But my data shows that my January and my December of 2022 are not as good as the previous year. And we have not changed anything. We didn't get a bad review. We didn't change our photos. We go in and play around with it the same amount that we always have. Well, now I'm doing it even more. But so I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But it's just something to think about if you're going into short-term, rentals. The grass has been very green for a while. And so you just need to be sure that you are calculating your data correctly, right?
100%.
To make a good choice.
I think this is a good place to pull back and to say, and this, owning and running a business of your own, things change.
Yeah.
Right? Things change. And if you're going into it as an investor, you're going into it as a business owner, you have to be aware that things are changing, and you have to be able to sit back, spend some time thinking, analyzing, looking at the data, talking to some people who's doing the same thing you are, and going, okay, so what needs to start shifting? Like, what in my plan do I need to look at changing or altering or shifting slightly in order to get myself to the place I want to go to? Because nothing ever lasts the same, and quite frankly, most things are cyclical, right? Like, you're going to have great years, you're going to have down years. Clemson University football team is not having a great year right now, right? And they are coming off of a high, right?
Right.
So things are cyclical. They'll get back. It'll happen again, right? But and I found that to be true regardless of the industry, regardless of what you do, regardless of the thing you're talking about. Everything usually operates like that. There's going to be highs, there's going to be lows, right?
Yep.
What's interesting about what you were talking about with the Airbnb algorithm is I've been doing a lot of research in some markets that we're looking at going and investing next. And there's a lot of inconsistency on Airbnb right now, right? So things aren't being categorized the way that they should be categorized.
Right.
Like something as simple as an A-frame, for instance. Like, I'll click on A-frames and look at a particular market, and that A-frame that I know is there isn't showing up. And it's not ours, but it's not showing up, but it's showing up in a weird other category, right? And so the only point I'm trying to make here, and I'm sure you've probably done this, is if you're relying on the OTAs to bring you your business, right? You have to really pay close attention.
Yes.
Because you're relying on them marketing your property for you. And if they're not marketing your property appropriately, then that's a problem. Like that's an issue. And I'm sure you've done that. This isn't to say it towards you. It's just for anybody who's listening to this.
Sure.
And I think that's something that's really important that we're trying our best to keep our thumb on for our rental is saying, okay, like, is it things showing up the way we want them to show up when people are going and looking for a place to stay? Because all too often as an investor, I feel like we'll throw something on Airbnb and we're like, hey, this is good enough. Well, did you go back and think about it from the perspective of someone else looking for a place to stay? Or did you put yourself in their shoes, right? What's the experience they're getting when they land on your Airbnb site? And again, I'm sure, like I've seen y'all's landing page. It's good. Like I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying, the things that I've noticed that I think the other side of this too is, and this is just us having a conversation, going back to that earlier conversation about investors who are, throwing up, the 6 houses on a street. I think some of the Airbnb bus talk is from poor experiences that people are constantly having because they're going and staying in short-term rentals where they're not getting a great experience, right? The hosts are not operating at a high level, right? They're basically just providing a bed and they're providing a kitchen and and a roof. Right. And that's not what people want. I think generally speaking, when they're looking at Airbnb, unless they're trying to serve a particular purpose like traveling for work or something like that. But if you're going to have a vacation, you want a great experience. You expect a great experience. And if you're paying for it, on Airbnb, people have the expectations they're going to get something positive out of it,
Right.
So I think that a lot of the Airbnb bus talk really does come from, there's a lot of investors who's moved into the space who care nothing about being good hosts. They've turned it over to mediocre property management companies. And there's a lot of people going and staying at a lot of Airbnbs all across the country, and they're not having good experiences. And like ultimately the industry, the short-term rental industry as a whole is going to suffer because of that. Right. And then when somebody like you guys come along and it's like, hey, we really want to create a great experience here. I think that's where you can find success for sure. So it's just really interesting to talk about that. So with the farmhouse, like what's the next steps for you guys on that particular property? Like what are you looking to do? Will you keep it as a short-term rental? Because you mentioned that you have some midterm stays too, right?
We do.
Yeah.
We'll keep the farmhouse as a short-term rental. People enjoy it. And the benefit of owning a short-term rental is if you choose to, you can go stay there yourself sometimes, and we enjoy that as well. Yeah. I mean, of course, you're giving up a reservation, but we do enjoy being there sometimes. We have another historic home, a 1920s Craftsman that's a short-term rental that we have in Greenville. And then we have a home in Bryson City. So that was our first one that we purchased outside of where we live.
Awesome.
And I've set up parameters for that as well. It had to be within, a 2-hour drive of where we live. And I set up some purchase parameters and what we wanted in terms of a return. And that one outperforms, it performs very well.
That's cool.
And so that's been very encouraging and encouraged us to buy 2 more.
That's cool.
Near Bryson City and do the same thing. So
why Bryson City?
Well, when I was doing my research within 2 hours of where we live, a drive, Asheville has a lot of regulations. I thought that it would be a great short-term rental market, but they are very strict with their short-term rental policies, and I didn't want to deal with that.
Yeah.
And then Great Smoky Mountain National Park is actually one of the top national parks that's visited. It's also ranks among a top international destination for people to come to. And so I thought, man,
14 million people a year.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I thought we can't go wrong if we get something near the Great Smoky Mountains. We have enjoyed taking our children there our whole life, their whole lives. It's got the Polar Express, which is a great draw during the Christmas season. So, and it's not as much as Gatlinburg. So it's not as far as Gatlinburg.
Yeah.
And it's not as expensive as Gatlinburg. Yeah. It's on the other side, the lower side, the south side of the park.
Yeah.
So we just thought that it was a good spot. And the final, yes, we're doing this, is I found an Italian villa. And so the home itself is just beautiful. And at the time when COVID hit, it was like a European vacation in our backyard. It really felt like you went to another
How cool is
country.
that?
That's really cool.
And so if I find, those unique places.
And
Yeah.
beautiful, unique experiences and beautiful places, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's what we said, we've got to get this. Has mountain view. It's just a beautiful property. And it did very well. So that's kind of, like I said, when we go to buy something or we set up a new plan, we always start with those parameters, right? So, and Bryson City, that house fit every single category.
That's very cool. What's the next step for you guys? Like, what do you guys, what gets you excited at this point? Because honestly, you guys are a bit more diversified than most other investors I've talked to, right? Like you've done,
Oops.
you've
They
done,
don't have ADD or something.
I mean, you've done mobile home parks. You've done I think you said you got done long-term, but midterm rentals, short-term rentals. What are you guys looking to expand and more short-term rentals, or at this point, or do you guys going in a different direction, or?
Well,
We've looked at taking the next step to the next level. So from where we're at now, we feel like high end, $1 million plus, like a beach house or something in Gatlinburg.
Yeah.
To really step up the game, because that's something we learned and we've been, coached on, was that every time you do something, you step up to the next level.
100%.
And so that's where we feel like we are at this point.
Yeah,
And
that's awesome.
We like the short-term rental.
So you think you'll stay in the short-term rental arena? It's just kind of taken up to larger properties,
Correct.
working with a different clientele.
yes, more luxury, high end.
Yeah, that's
million
cool.
plus type.
And we learned from our long-term rentals that our short-term rentals, sometimes even our midterms, will do the same income, but our properties stay immaculate.
Right.
That is the
We get in, we can clean it once a month, provide that service. Whereas our other properties, even if it's a nice home that we have that's a long-term rental, it just doesn't get taken care of like you would want it to be.
That's so interesting. I mean, that was honestly one of our concerns. Like that was because we never had long-term rentals. So
Right.
we had heard people say that. We had heard people say, hey, it's actually better to have a short-term rental than a long-term because, it'll actually be better taken care of.
Yeah.
And it's cool to know that in your experience, it's actually very true.
Very true.
Yeah. I mean, we haven't, we honestly, of all the guests that we've had, we maybe have had like one semi-bad issue as far as like cleaning, but like, man, that's out of a lot of stays that we've had this year, it was only one and it wasn't even that big of a deal. And I mean, it's funny you guys talk about short-term rentals. This is like one of the last things we'll talk about, but I think one of the major benefits of short-term rentals is that it very much is there's a side benefit for us that we get to take our family there. And for us, we always try to schedule like a week in December before Christmas to take the kids. And we're building a bit of a tradition around it, right?
That's awesome.
So it's cool that we get all the benefits of real estate, right?
Yeah.
We get the cash flow, we get to make money off of the property. Right. But in addition to all that, we actually have something that even our kids are excited about and interested in. They ask us all year long when we're going to the cabin, right? Like they always say, when are we going to the cabin? When are we going to the cabin? So they get excited about that. So it's cool that you're right. Like the ability to be able to go stay is very cool. I know that our ultimate goal is to have 4 or 5 properties. And then, in 20 years, 25 years, April and I can just spend half the year in one property, go spend the other half of the year in the other property, go like that's ultimately what we're going after,
That's
we're in the same
we're the same
Yeah.
page.
Yeah.
We have a house in the town. We have a house in the country, and
one in the mountains,
like to
one
have-
at the beach.
Right.
100%.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so before we leave, you have your book coming out. So tell us a little bit about your book and how people can find you.
Okay. My book is called Don't Do Normal, How We Live Our Best Life Through Real Estate Investing. It is on pre-sale right now on Amazon. And then we have our business name. We didn't talk about this, but our business is Katie Did Hospitality. My mother's name was Katie. And one of her favorite candy treats is from Illinois. It was a Katie Did, which is similar to a turtle. And I think my mother did a great job, raising us. So Katie Did Well is what rings true in my mind. So we named our business after my mother. Katie Did Hospitality. We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram. And you can direct book with us at katiedidhospitality.com.
That's amazing. Before we leave, what's one more tip? Just like the singular thing that you'd like to leave everybody with, something that might help them in their journey of either getting their first short-term rental or getting their next short-term rental or just owning and operating a successful business?
My one tip would be to read The Man in the Arena by Theodore Roosevelt. It is part of a speech he gave, I believe, in the early 1900s. And it just talks about, be the man in the arena. Get the blood on your face. Get out there, get in it, do it. There are going to be people in the stands that are talking about you or mocking you or questioning you or saying that naysayers that say you can't do it. But are they in the arena? Do they have blood on their face? Are they the ones that are actually doing something? No.
Yeah.
So get in there and do it.
Forgive me. I love that. That's so good. So good. All right. Thanks, guys. I really appreciate you being here. And again, congratulations. I hope that you guys are able to look back on your experience and your journey so far and understand how profoundly amazing it is. That you were able to take the right steps and make the mistakes and have the failures and fix it and build a successful business. You don't have to go out there and then start with that $1 million property, right?
Yeah.
Which is what most people think that they have to do in order to be successful. You can look at your current situation, figure out what you need to do to get there.
That's right.
And man, that's so profound. Guys, check out the book. It's amazing. I'm going to order a copy right now. And thank you guys for being with us. Hopefully you guys were able to pull a few nuggets of wisdom out of this. I know I did. I know I learned a few things.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So guys, thank you so much again.
Thank
you for having us.
Yeah. Have an incredible day, an incredible week, and go out there and crush it. I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye. Hey everyone, thanks for listening. Hopefully this was really helpful to you in your journey of building a business. If you liked what you heard, please click subscribe and go to iTunes and give us a rating. That helps us out tremendously when we're producing, hopefully, content of huge value to you. I can't tell you how much I appreciate it, and I hope that you have an amazing week. Go out there and crush it. I'll see you soon.